It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
I am Iron Man.
I'm Pickle Rick!
I have a dream.
I am your father.
I'm Sean Spencer. This is my partner, Gus Silly Pants Jackson.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
God bless America.
Avengers!
Assemble.
That's life. That's life. That's what all the people say. You're riding high in April, shot down in May. But I know I'm gonna change that tune. When I'm back on top in June. I said that's life. That's life. And it's funny.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to That's Life Podcast. It's been a minute. I've missed you all. I have a guest in studio today. We're kicking off 22 the right way. Guys, today, big guest. Magical guest, you could probably say. A magician, a clown, a pastor. The same man who spanked my butt from the ages of 2 to the ages of 14. And I know that sounds weird, but none other than my father, the clown.
All right, take number 412. Am I going to do it right this time?
All right, let's see if you can do it. I like the energy you're coming in with. A little bit aggressive right out the gate, but I like that you're coming in with some energy now.
Well, it's 2 a.m. We've been doing this for 7 hours. So
I had to wake you up from your nap to get out here, okay?
Well,
So
hey,
we're here.
When
we're
you're my
here.
age, you nap.
This is very true. I mean, I've seen him take a break while walking in Kroger to catch his breath sometimes. So, listen, it's a big interview, right? My dad is the term jack of all trades would be my father.
And master of none.
And master, that is 100% a true fact as well. But he was a clown. He was a magician. He was a pastor. He was. I just found out before this interview started. He was a detective.
Licensed private detective for the state of Indiana.
How many people did you arrest?
13 misdemeanors, 2 felonies, all went to court and all got convicted. I even helped the FBI and ATF bring in a top 10 wanted criminal one time.
Oh, listen, so, you know, that whole John Dillinger story with that was all based apparently off of my father. How many of those men that you put in jail were guys that dated your daughters?
None.
Oh, well, there's a big surprise as well. Well, I mean, this interview has so much, there's so much to unpack here, right? And the reason that I started That's Life podcast is because I wanted to interview the interesting. And if there's nothing I can say more about you, it's that you're one of the most interesting people you are arguably the most interesting man in the world. I mean, you've just done everything. So I want to start magic, right? Because that's kind of where that was your first love. That was before the clown makeup. That was before, clown college. Listen, I did say clown college, and I did not mess that up. We're going to talk about clown college here in a second.
Hey, don't forget my offer to travel with Ringling Brothers and Barnum & Bailey Circus, or the time I clowned for the Shriner Circus. There's all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah, listen, we're going to get there, okay? But let's start at magic, because I know that's what was your first love. I mean, this man wore a cape to school at like 4 years old, so... Let's start with magic. How did you get into magic? Was it something that your dad loved? What?
Okay, now, I didn't wear a cape to school because I didn't have one made for me till I was 12.
Oh, my bad.
Okay.
Yeah, he got beat up at 12, not 4. My bad, guys.
That is true. But I was also an athlete, so I played football for 6 years, and so I kind of walked that fine line between getting beat up and not being a nerd.
So you what, like didn't get beat up from football season till the end of football season?
Basically. Because I was also in band at the same time, and I was even training to be a drum major, the guy who spins the baton and takes the funky steps at the beginning. Yeah.
So you were still finding your sexuality is what you're trying to tell me.
Yeah, what you're still doing at 26 or 7, however old you are. So,
yeah. I mean, listen, he does have a lot of kids, so getting even near my age is already a pretty impressive feat.
Oh, yeah, I've had 2 kids by the time I was your age.
Wow. Well, no thank you. I'm going to throw that one out there. All right, but let's go to magic. Because, right. I've seen pictures of you ever since you were a little kid, holding a magic wand, your first magic trick. Talk to me. How'd you get into it?
This is cool, and hopefully, my kids might know this story. I've told it. Your sisters might. Your older sisters might. But when I was 5, my dad came home from the mill. My dad worked at Inland Steel. He came home from the mill, and he said, "Hey, somebody taught me a trick today." And I said, "All right, what is it?" And he went to the cupboard and got 3 cups and went and got 3 cotton balls.
And
it was
the cups and balls trick. Yeah,
which is arguably one of the oldest tricks that's still performed.
Classic.
Yeah. Best we know is it's thousands of years old. It was used by charlatans on the side of the road to gaff money from people. Thousands of years old. And there are people that have perfected it and done nuances to it, and it's beautiful. But anyways, I can remember the cups, what they look like. Dad went to the cupboard, got them 3 out, and did the cups and ball tricks in front of me. And I was 5 years old, so I was blown away. And I went, all right, what do I got to do? And Dad says, I'm not going to tell you, but if you want to learn, there's a trick shop near our house. And it was in Hammond, Indiana. It's called Wayne's Trick Shop.
Is it still there or is it out?
No, it's gone. Wayne, at the time, Wayne Shumway was his name. His dad was a famous Vegas performer. And he lived, they were from Chicago, but his dad had performed in Vegas. And he had a trick shop, and he performed throughout Chicago.
Yeah.
But he had a trick shop, and it was a big hot thing in Hammond, Indiana, Northwest Indiana. And so I saved up my allowance for a couple of weeks, and Dad took me to Wayne's Trick Shop. He had my dad worked at a business right up the street. So I went to work with Dad on a Saturday, and during lunch or after work, we may have closed early at 1 or something like that, we went up to the trick shop, and I took my money and bought a plastic version of the cups and balls trick, which I still have.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I still have it downstairs. First trick I bought when I was 5 years old. So I took it home, practiced it over and over and over again, and then that was the trick. Anytime Grandma came over, Grandpa came over, I did the cups and ball trick. Saved up money and bought the next trick. About 2 months later, it was where you take 4 nickels and a brass ring, and you make the nickels disappear, and then you turn the nickels into 4 dimes. I still have that trick along with my original magic wand, which I all got at that when I was between 5 and 6 years old. And at that point, my parents decided to go ahead and make me get beat up the rest of my life. So it just became things where I would, for birthdays and stuff, I would get another trick. And it's like my Marvel obsession was your magic obsession. Yeah. The fact that we're surrounded by 400 pops. And by pops, for those of you who don't know, we're not talking about like the drinks. We're talking about the bobbleheads. The bobbleheads. I have roughly, and this is not even a joke, the last time I counted, I was close to 500. There you go. So yeah. So so I started practicing magic, and Wayne had a magic club, and it was the Hammond Magic Club, met at the Hammond YMCA. And my mom and dad would mom would take me up there, dad would take me up there once a month, and you go to the magic club. It's not a lot like the club I'm at now, where it's older guys and we're accomplished magicians or accomplished performers. This was for younger kids. It was a junior club. So you would learn tricks, and you would learn how to do things, and you had to learn how to do a card trick. Then you had to take that card trick and adapt it to your own. So I went to Wayne's magic school for a couple of years until we moved further away, and it wasn't convenient to drive there anymore. But I would still go up and buy everything from Wayne. Every now and then we would travel to Chicago, and there was a place called Magic Incorporated downtown Chicago, and I'd get a bigger trick there. So by the time I was grade school, junior high, probably 13, was the first time I did perform publicly. I performed for the public schools, grade schools in Lowell, Indiana. So my sister, Lorraine, my sister, she was my assistant. And I remember the first tricks I did, and I had a card table and, bad silks and stuff, and wore a bow tie and did my first public thing. The worst part about it was my first performance. My mom, I don't know that she ever saw me perform. It made her too nervous. She never saw me play sports. In the 7 years I played sports, she came to, I think, 1 football game. What? Yeah. She was always panicked and nervous that I would get hurt or something would happen. And so she couldn't stand to watch me perform magic. So I was 13, I was performing, and I heard a noise, and I look in the back of the gym, and my mom walked in, which made me super nervous. She watched about 10 minutes of the show and then split. And we just didn't talk about it. She just wanted to know how it was. But I do remember that I got $20 for that first show. Wow, you remember your first paycheck from that's decent money. back
for
then,
a kid magician, that's
and,
decent money.
I did the first and second grade together, then the third and fourth grade together, then the fifth and sixth grade together. So I did 3 shows over probably an hour and a half in assemblies in a gymnasium, which was the worst of every world as far as the noise and kids and little kids like that have not learned to be tricked yet. So they'll yell out things that a lot of times they're right. Hey, you did it this way, or hey, it's you stuck it in your pocket, and you have to learn. And at that point, being my first public show, you didn't really know how to do it. So throughout that, I continued to practice. Probably when I got kind of serious was my freshman year at high school. I was in drama club. I was in the band. I was playing football. And we had a great football team. I was in the freshman squad, but I had made junior varsity as a freshman, and I even got to play in one varsity game. So I was pretty good at what I did in football. But the drum major for our band, his name was Rocky Killian, and Rocky still is, he's a high school principal. He may have retired by now. But I got to be friends with Rocky, and Rocky was training me to become the next drum major when he would retire after his senior year. He was a junior and I was a freshman. He may have been a senior. And we started talking and found out that we had mutual enjoyment of magic. And he said, all right, I want to give you something. So he brought me in all his magic. And the flag blend trick that I do, that flag blend trick was Rocky's uncle's.
Oh, that's actually really cool.
And you got to figure that trick, I graduated high school 42 years ago, something like that. So that trick is probably 55 years old.
Wow.
And I still do it. And it's one of my favorites.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's one of the favorite things my kids do. When I do kids shows, it's still one of the favorite things. And I produce a flag out of it, so it's a little patriotic thing because I have some of that in my show. But Rocky gave it to me. And during that conversation, Rocky and I also found out we share a birthday. We're both born on August 4th. So that was kind of something cool.
Listen, I feel like there's more. This is a magical friendship. if we could segue that together, guys.
So I continued to just pursue it through high school. I went to a small Christian school after that, and I did it there. And
now the Christian school, because I know the school very well. They were for those of you who don't know, back then it was. I mean. Was magic? Very indie fundy, crazy. Hair couldn't touch the ears. Women skirts to the ground, or you're going to go to hell, kind of a thing. Yep. All right. So did you have to hide your magic, or because I felt like I remember when Harry Potter was horrible for them too.
Because my vice principal was a magician. He used to travel as an evangelist magician.
Interesting.
So I did for a speech class. I did. The 4 basic types of magic, whether it was, I don't even remember what they were at the time.
Water into wine, pick a loaf of bread, any bread.
The sleight of hand, table magic, and illusions. I think I made it up in whatever the speech was. I did it, and then I illustrated it as I did it. So my speech class, I got an A in that because I did a sleight of hand thing. I did a table illusion, and then I did a bigger thing. One of my bigger tricks at the time, I think I did the stoplight trick.
Stoplight's it's one of my favorites.
One of the bigger tricks I had. So then when we were living there, actually at one point, some of my magic got stolen and damaged. So for a year, there were a couple of years there where I was rebuilding it. But I started, let me think. It was probably when my brother then became maybe teenagers. He showed an interest in it. My brother, who still does magic, and he lives in Texas, but we started Larry's World of Magic. And he was my assistant. We had tuxes and doves, and I had...
you guys were, straight up tuxes?
Oh, yeah. We had three tuxes that we did changes into.
How bad was both of your guys' comb-overs?
Oh, that was cool, man. We did good. I got black and whites from that. We actually had pictures taken and stuff. And so I got... we just continued to do it, and... 1 year for the Crown Point Chamber of Commerce. They had Burger King. Burger King used to have the marvelous, magical Burger King. It was it's the same Burger King that they have now with the creepy head, except it was an actual guy, and he was a magician. And it was he would sing a song. I'm the marvelous, magical Burger King. Now watch me, kids, as I turn my ring, and like magic, we're at Burger King. And he would do that, but he would travel around like Ronald does for McDonald's, and he would travel around and do magic shows. And that bombed for them. And they got bad people. Although Ronald McDonald right now is doing magic, and if you see some of the stuff on YouTube and stuff, it's horrible.
First off, I'm going to pause here because we have a Ronald McDonald story that I have to tell real quick. Super short. So long story short.
It's a horrible story.
Long story short, we went to a festival in Portland, Tennessee. If you don't know where that is, congratulations.
What was it? Blueberry Festival?
It's Strawberry Festival.
Strawberry
Yep,
Festival.
Yep. It's in Portland, Tennessee. If you don't know where that is, congratulations, you've won. But why we went, I don't even know. Our family collectively had more teeth than everybody that was there. Anyways,
they had pet turtles. Remember the people?
Yeah.
Pet turtles.
I mean, it was
brought their pet turtles to the parade.
So basically, if you said, "Hey, let's all do acid and then go to a strawberry festival," that's exactly what this was like.
Yep.
Anyways, Ronald McDonald did appear. I'm going to go ahead and say that they illegally used that. Like, I'm pretty sure that he was not licensed to be there.
That was licensed.
That was licensed.
Put on by
crap.
the local McDonald's. Yeah.
So, anyways, Ronald McDonald. He's riding on a.
He's riding in a convertible.
A convertible. We're all sitting there, and there's a gentleman in a wheelchair sitting beside us. And so, we're all sitting on the curb because there's absolutely no room. This place is packed with every hillbilly that's ever known to man. And Ronald McDonald's, he's waving at people, and then the guy in the wheelchair is sitting right beside us. And Ronald looks at that guy in the wheelchair, and he goes, "That guy's smart. He brought his own chair. Hey, have a great day, everybody."
Yeah, that actually happened. That is not an exaggeration at all. We were freaked out, and yeah. So.
Anyways, back to magic. Okay, so now you're doing it with your brother. Where did Just Plain Magic and all that
well,
start
that's what I
coming
came up with. The name Just Plain Magic. It was Larry's World of Magic. Then I had my little spiel. I used to remember it. I don't remember it. It is written down somewhere.
Wait, first off, you don't remember that, but you remember the Burger King commercial ring? Just throw that one out there.
So we went to Just Plain Magic. I had a logo created for me. I had it trademarked. And
you still have it trademarked, and yeah,
it's trademarked. I own the IP address for it and different things. But anyways, so they called me from the chamber, and I was managing a business in town, and they said, "Hey, look, the marvelous magical Burger King canceled on us. Can you do something?" Because I had done shows in town there. I have done so many bizarre shows. I've done shows for 5 years. I was a spokesman for the American Cancer Society. I've done shows for all the different children's hospitals, Shriners hospitals. I have been in tons of hospitals, both as a clown and a magician. I have done, I did the mayor of Crown Point. I did his inauguration banquet. And weird as was, they didn't want me to do it straight magician. I did it as a clown magician, and I did it with a friend of mine who was a captain on the fire department. And it was slapstick and borderline questionable humor at a Democratic fundraiser, a Democratic swearing in of. So I've done everything. I've done Cub Scout jamborees where there were thousands of Cub Scouts. I've done Awana clubs. I've done camps. In fact, for 6 or 7 years, I traveled about half the weekends of the year doing magic shows for camps and vacation Bible schools and high schools and you name it. But anyways, so I
feel like magicians and comedians are really in the same role.
You have to have the gift of gab.
Yes.
Because part of the misdirection is telling you what not to look at.
Yeah.
And that's part of the fun. You've helped me on some.
I know how to do. Dad bought me my first magic set when I was 7 or 8. Yeah. And I still have all my magic. I had Jacob's magic trunk. And so I know how to do a few. I used to be able to do a whole lot more. I wish I still did it, but we've done shows and stuff together.
I bought all my kids' stuff and not one of them wanted to do magic. So what does that tell you? But anyway, so I got together this show, and it had to be an hour-long show. And they did it. We did it, I think, 3 times. So during an hour show, we would do a lot of it was musical and choreographed. And at the time, I was dating who ended up being your mom. And so since we were dating, I got her as a female assistant. I had my brother Leonard as the other magician, and we would do Just Plain Magic. And we again had a spiel, and we had this whole pattern where we would do different things and change tuxes at a different time. But what we found out is to set up for the second half, we needed an intermission. We needed a 10-minute break to reset our tricks. And so I ran into a friend of mine, and her name's Juanita Capiones. And
I love Miss Juanita.
Yeah. Juanita had a clown named Ruffles, and she had just started doing that, and I had seen her somewhere and got her card. So I called Juanita, and I said, hey, look, this is what's going on. Would you guys like to come and entertain during halftime?
Yeah.
And so I did 30 minutes of magic. They did 10-minute break. Then I did a 25 minutes in the hour. And at the end, the clowns made balloons for kids. And we set up for the next show because we did like 3 shows that day. Probably put through 2,000 kids in a day. And it was a big festival for Crown Point, Indiana. It was a lot of fun. But that's where I kind of got into clowning. And because I met some fun people, and it looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I also grew up in Chicago, which was one of the #1 markets for the Bozo Show.
Yeah.
And the Bozo Show at the time, Bob Bell, Wizzo, Ray Rayner played the Oliver the clown and that stuff. So we grew up with a very wholesome view of clowns. It's not like the clowns today
and that's
the crazy stuff where people are chopping up, and people didn't freak out about clowns until they started making the genre of clowns become horror.
Well, no, like clowns were a staple of entertainment back then. That was normal.
Yeah.
Like how I would see a musician or something today. That clowns were part of massive entertainment back then. That was normal.
Yeah. In fact, the franchise of Bozo the Clown was international.
Yeah,
they were all over the country.
It was huge.
Ronald McDonald is based on Bozo the Clown. The old Weatherman, I can't even think of his name. The old Weatherman was one of the original Bozos, and original Ronald McDonald's that kind of heavyset guy who used to do all the parades and stuff. I can't think of his name right off the top of it. But anyways, so because of that, then I got to know Juanita really well, and I used her again as show warm up when I would get shows. But she also was the president of a clown alley, and she said, "Hey, would you come and teach magic to our clown alley?" And so I've always loved clowning, and I like to be around it. My uncle was a Shriner. So every year he would give my dad tickets to the Shriner Circus, which was a big deal back then, giant. And you went and saw that, and you could ride the elephants.
Yeah, elephants were back then. It's not like today where basically everything's watered down crap. I mean, there was elephants, lions, and tigers, and they were inches away from you.
And they were literally, there were bears, and there were llamas, and there were zebras, and there was all kinds of wildlife.
Yeah.
The entertainer that I grew up and met and I have pictures with and an autograph, this was Pat Anthony. Pat Anthony was a famous lion tamer of the day, and my cousin traveled with the circus with a lion and an elephant show for a number of years. And she actually performed not only for the Shriner Circus, but she performed for Ringling Brothers. But at the time, there were several major circuses traveling America where they've dwindled to nothing today. And they're, circus is another thing altogether. But so I got into it, and Juanita said, "Hey, look, why don't you come take this course? We have a course on performing arts." And so I went through a semester-long adult education course. It was 3 hours a week for 18 weeks. And you graduated by creating a clown name, a clown costume. You had to make your own costume. You had to figure out your own face. You had to learn how to juggle.
Yeah.
And then you had to put on a graduation skit, which you invited your family to. And absolutely, my family was good enough to come. And you guys you weren't alive yet, but your sisters got drugged to it. And, Ruth's sister got drugged to it. And I probably had 25 family members watch me graduate from clown college.
So is that all right? Let's break that down, because I feel like you're skipping over it. Like you're just like, and then I was a clown and I graduated. Hold up. Okay, so Juanita, which I love, Miss Juanita. So she kind of got you into clowning,
right?
And so she said, "Hey, why don't you go to clown college?" And so at the end of clown college, is that where you originally came up with Hocus and Pocus, or was that after all that?
No, you had to come up with a clown name.
Yeah.
And, people did different things, and sassy this, or, balloon bubble this, and they would, whatever they come up with. Well, I wanted to do magic. And also, at the time, there were certain kinds of magic I did not enjoy. I've been to hundreds of circuses and probably 100 magic shows. More than that.
I was about to say, I've been to 100 magic shows since I've been alive.
I've been to 15 in the last 15 weeks in a row with my friend Jason.
Yeah.
So, hundreds of both. And there were just some that were so serious and so,
This is an illusion. I'm going to fly for real. You're just like, hey, first off, Darren Romeo, can you calm down over here real quick?
Okay, the world's richest magician, David Copperfield,
yeah.
$2 billion, has the museum. I can't criticize anything the man's done, but
yeah, he's accomplished. That's not my style.
His style of magic, I don't like. In that nobody believes I made the Statue of Liberty disappear.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I threw a blanket over it. I covered your eyes. I turned lights out. Something.
Yeah.
I did not make that happen. Meanwhile, if I'm standing there and I have a bucket and show you the bucket's empty, and then 2 minutes later I produce a giant duck out of the bucket, you're going to go, wait a second. I saw that bucket. It was empty. Where'd that duck come from?
For me, magic, less is more. All of my favorite magicians nowadays are doing, and when I say less is more, I mean there's some big tricks that are awesome, and I think Penn and Teller do very, very awesome big tricks like the nail gun and stuff like that. But there's very, very few good big illusions anymore. Everything's just this: if I don't cut this rope in 5 seconds, everyone in this audience will die. Or you have, see this piano, it will disappear, and you see guys in black suits pushing the piano off. I've seen this. This is 100% true. I've seen guys in black suits pushing stuff off of a stage before.
You are repeating what happened. Your brother-in-law had never seen a magic show, and I took him to a magic show in Pigeon Forge, and we were sitting at a bad angle. And the guy was going to make a piano appear.
That's right. Yeah.
And literally, he was sitting next to us. We saw 3 guys dressed all in black shove a piano from behind a curtain. And he looked at me and said, "Did I just see that?" I said, "Yeah, you did. It's bad." And yet those people are making a lot of money doing it.
They are.
So anyways, I said, I want to do something because I like magic being fun.
Yeah.
I want people laughing. I want to do stupid stuff. I want to do silly stuff. But I want to do stuff that you still walk away and go, huh? How do you do that?
Yeah, he did a trick.
And so that's where I came up with the name Hocus and Pocus. And I just spelled it different. It's spelled Hocus Pocus. And I spelled it with a K.
Yeah.
So something different. I designed my costumes.
So it's the original one that I've seen, and for all of you, when this episode comes out, there'll be a picture and all that, so you'll get to see all this, and also there'll be a magic trick that's going to be live on YouTube, so a bunch of stuff's going to come out, so you need to make sure that you're subscribed to everything Locker Room, or not the Locker Room, excuse me, that's
on YouTube is the card trick you and I did still.
Yeah. I'm going to set leaks to all this. That's Life Podcast. So make sure you're following That's Life Podcast. I literally just got done recording the Locker Room Podcast before this. So it's a busy podcast night, but just making sure you're subscribed so you get to see all this stuff. But anyways, back to you.
And I don't know anything enough about sports except...
his go-to phrase is, you know who wins? And I go, who? He goes, the team with the most points. And
there you go.
All right,
Ta-da.
Appreciate it, Dad.
So can't stand the NBA. Very few professional teams. If anything I like... Still Cubs. All right. Woohoo. Chicago Cubs.
Go Cubs.
And in another 100 years, we'll win again.
I was about to say, we saw one in our lifetime. We all cried. Now moving on.
But that, again, has to do with your love. And that is, Dad took me to ball games. We went to the Chicago Cubs game. We never went to the White Sox game. White Sox suck. We're scummy Southsiders. We went to the North Side. I got to meet my hero at the day, who was a third baseman, Ron Santo. And he was super nice to me. So you make those memories early on in life, and that's what you tend to love. Yeah. So anyways, so I came up with the name Hocus, to jump back to that. So my clown was not a clown that necessarily dropped his pants and honked his nose. He was the one who made your pants disappear. And I did do that trick. I played
nowadays, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we call a criminal.
Yeah, that's true. At a kid's show. Right. That's right.
At a kid's show. Yeah. Oh, hey, listen, that's what we call a pedophile criminal. Okay?
I did a trick with, I played a character in another series called Fluidini, which was obviously a take on Houdini. It was a magician who did stupid, it was gag tricks, but they had to happen. Yeah. And one of the things they always made me do was made my pants disappear. That was one of the things. Now, you wore boxer shorts, and underneath it, you wore underwear and stuff, so you really weren't exposed.
Yeah, you're not,
But then again, having bright polka dot shorts showing had a different connotation then than today.
Than everything today, yeah.
So today that would offend people, and people would go into therapy.
Oh, I get, and I tell people this is a joke. Like, I know this podcast isn't massive, so I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I get a message from a Karen about every 2 weeks about the sports podcast or about That's Life, about just, and I'm like, first off, who is finding this and just being like, that 26-year-old boy who's living out something that he loves in his bedroom, we're going to trash that man. That's why they're like, what? Anyways, all right, so
that's where Hocus
came from. Okay.
So then when I needed an assistant and I was performing as Hocus, I had another guy that I performed with for a while, but then your mom said she would help, so it instantly went to Pocus, and I made her a similar costume to me. And she was always just the straight person, just the person who brought me out the next trick. And we were still performing a lot to a lot of family camps and getaways and that type of thing. We had a camp up in Wisconsin that we went to a lot and did performing. So we just continued to perform for years. And when that all took place, I was in my mid-20s by then. So I was still doing magic. I loved the art of clowning. And I had an opportunity to apply for clown college for Ringling Brothers.
Yeah.
And at the time, they were taking applications. I had sent in the application, sent in pictures, and then I sent in a videotape. And we got back. I got back a letter, which I still have, that invited me to come down, work with them, and travel with the circus.
That's pretty crazy. I mean, Ringling Brothers
back then was huge.
I mean, back then was massive.
Yeah.
I mean, they were selling out the Chicago Bulls arena.
Oh, yeah.
That was like my 11th or 12th birthday present. That was, to this day, I can remember it like it was yesterday.
You got your fish tank.
Got my fish tank that year, yeah. That was such an but I remember, I mean, they used to sell out arenas.
Right. Well, the finale with 11 elephants all standing on each other's back. And by the way, those animals were so well treated.
Yeah.
I knew people that were vets for them. I knew people who handled them. And were there people that did abuse them? Absolutely.
Because there's always that offspring of some, this is John's circus, and it's just like, I don't think John should have a circus. Like, there's always those.
A third of the people out there shouldn't probably own the dogs or the cats they have.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So,
facts.
Anyways,
it's just a lot bigger to see an elephant being mistreated than it is your chihuahua.
Right. So I did that, and that's kind of where I've continued to do that. And I did take a break now for quite a few years, 4 or 5 years. But in the last year, I've been redeveloping my show, and I'm doing it differently. I'm doing it straight. I don't do any clowning anymore. I'm doing it straight, but I'm doing it. Jason Michaels, who is one of the top performers in the country.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine. His new show is very personal to him. It tells his personal story. He has Tourette's, and he talks about how he fights through it and what happened, and he does stories around his trick. My new show does the same thing in that it takes me through the areas of magicians that I knew. I got to meet Doug Henning. I got to see him perform several times, but I got to meet Doug Henning, and those of you that can Google who Doug Henning is.
Yeah, I was about to say, get out your phones.
And I do a trick specifically that he introduced on Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
And that name is probably more familiar to a lot of people because he is world known. Doug Henning actually was the #1 guy in the world at the time. And he, sweet guy, actually called. I knew the person who was the manager of the hotel where he was staying at when he was performing. And I got his room number. And I got him to ring his room, and his wife answered. And I told him who I was and local. I was a member of the Society of American Magicians, International Brotherhood of Magicians, and the Society of Magic Christian Magicians. I was a member of all those different societies, and I had my wrong job. I had my Just Plain Magic shirts, and I had shirts and logos made up, and I said, I'm going to give him one. And she said, well, look, he is into transcendental meditation. He said he's meditating before a show, but if you'll come by this time after the show, we'll meet him. So I got to meet him and literally talk to him for about 10 or 15 minutes. And at the time, he was the #1 performer in the world in magic.
Yeah.
So I have a trick that I do that I tell the story of meeting him and his kindness. I have a big part of the show, which is probably the most colorful part of the show, and it's taken me a long time to get this. That's an ode to Harry Blackstone Jr. Again, his wife is still alive, very active in magic, but Harry Blackstone died very early of cancer. But I got to see Harry, my dad, again, when I was probably 9 or 10, took me to see Harry Blackstone Jr. And at the time, I didn't know any better. I brought my 8mm movie projector, to take movies of him. And I have about 30 seconds of a movie of him performing on stage at Purdue University. And then all of a sudden it moves around because I didn't know you could take movies of a magician.
Yeah.
And while I was taking the movies, an usher came and snatched the camera out of my hand. My dad was a cop and had a gun and badge on him, so we were able to get the camera back. So I have somewhere probably 20 or 30 seconds of him performing before the camera was snatched on my back. But Dad, because he had connections, also got me backstage to meet him. So I got my first autograph from him then. Later, Dad and I went to a second time, and the second time I introduced myself and told him where I had met him, and he acted like he remembered.
Yeah, which is, listen, by the way, famous people, if we ever meet you and we say, hey, I saw you and you shook my hand, just nod your head. We met, and I won't name his name because I mean I know people that know him, and there's a connection that could get back to me. Okay, so I won't name his name, but I'd met this person several times, and he could not have been the meaner Also, we were at a Zaxby's at like noon. If you're at Zaxby's at noon, you can't expect no one to not come up to you.
Well, we won't say the name, but you told me who it was. I looked up on the phone and go, that is him. So I pulled out.
And the thing is, I met him because I coach volleyball at this point. I was going on 7 years, and his daughter played volleyball. And so I met him through that
Well,
5, 6 times.
met him through the Opry, too, with your connections there.
Yeah. I've met him several times.
So we kept trying to make contact with him, and his bodyguard was giving us this nasty look, and he's eating Zaxby's like we are. So I pulled up on my phone his latest #1 hit and played it really loud. Really, you freaked out. You said, "You really, Dad? Come on." So I did it, and I looked over, and he wouldn't even look up. He was a total kind of a tool about it.
Yeah.
And so we left, and we left at the same time, and as we walked out, you or I both said,
I said, hey, I love your music, man, and just want to say, and I mean, could not have been ruder.
Did not acknowledge us at all. Didn't flip us off or put a booger on us, nothing. He just like, we didn't say a word.
Which I get it. They get people like us all the time. But for like someone to say like, hey, yeah, of course, what's up, man? Like for someone to even do that, like that's pretty awesome. And that leaves such an impact. I mean, like when I met Johnny Depp, to this day, he could not have been nicer. There was 10,000 people that he shook hands with, but he made you feel, I was like, wow, Johnny Depp was like, absolutely, good to see you, man. You're just like, oh, okay, sir, appreciate it. But anyways, not to interrupt your story, if you're a celebrity out there, like, just be nice. The world is filled with so many rude people. Just be nice to your fans.
Well, to continue that story, I got to see Harry Blackstone Jr. perform a number of times, 7 or 8 times. And I would always go back in stage. So he started to remember me, remembering my name. So the last time we saw him, he was performing, one of the last times he performed in Chicago. And we hung around, Ruth and I did, until, that's the white sweatshirt I have downstairs with his. Yeah. He signed that and gave it to me. I didn't even buy it. He signed it and gave it to me. We stood around and talked for probably an hour after the show. Just him and his wife and Ruth and I, and their kids were running around and talking about that. And they were loading up the elephant. And he traveled with an elephant and a gigantic entourage. It was unbelievable. His show was a performance like the 50s and 60s, where it was just boom all over the stage.
Yeah.
Versus just coming out with a deck of cards or one prop. He lit the stage up. He had a live orchestra. He produced an elephant at one point. There was just so many things. So he had part of his show was my favorite part was he produced a garden of flowers. Just giant flower pots and stuff going all over the place. And I have a little homage to him now.
Yeah.
Has to do with all kinds of flowers. I
saw this one. He performed it for my sister's birthday.
Yeah.
Performed kind of his new show. And it's pretty awesome. I'm not going to lie.
So,
I'm excited to see it.
In that part of the show then, too, I talk about him. And then I play the music and then do a 5 or 7 minute routine, all with flowers.
Yeah.
And then I do an escape trick. I do 2 different escape tricks. Just to talk about, the homage to Harry Houdini, who I didn't meet. He was dead before I was born.
Yeah.
But the name everybody knows.
We can talk about magic. Yeah, David Copperfield, Harry Houdini.
Those are 2 names people know. And, Copperfield is actually, there was a Copperfield way before him that he's actually following in that footstep of names. But he's the probably most famous and recognizable. At the time when you talked about Penn and Teller, I've not seen them in person, but they were the bad boys of magic.
Yeah,
they were exposing.
They were edgy and they were exposing tricks, but they were exposing, and it's hard to. They were exposing tricks, but at the same time creating a new trick. And I think that was so genius about Penn and Teller is they would show you the cups and balls trick, and then they bring out baseballs, and you're like, wait, how the frick did you just produce a baseball?
Or they do the cups and balls tricks with clear cups.
Clear cups, exactly.
And you don't ever see the change and stuff. They do a lot of, unlike the people like the Masked Magician who came on Fox.
Yeah, and he was exposing magic tricks.
That was a magician who still doesn't have a career, never has had a career, but got offered a lot of money to expose that world.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So my new show that I'm working on putting together is kind of personal to me. It's kind of an homage to my dad. I'm going to show the cups and balls. I'm not going to do them because there are people like Jason Michaels that do them so masterfully.
Yeah, I mean, he's actually, and I've seen. I mean, you've taken me to. I mean, I love going to magic shows. I've seen probably 100 magic shows in my life, and he does probably my favorite version of it.
Yeah, and it's all
because he has the metal cups. Last I remember, right? Yeah. And it's very so you can hear it, you can see, and like that's what I love is.
And he does it in the character of
because it's the
Shakespearean
it's the Renaissance.
Yeah,
and he talks about how they scam and like yeah.
So we're promoting his show that happens to be going on right now. He does perform his own private show in a 33-seat auditorium at the filming station in Nashville.
Yeah.
3 or 4 Saturdays.
I'll make sure to tag him in the links for everything.
Yeah, it's super
Yeah,
cool.
I've seen Jason. Also, Jason's just a great guy.
Yeah.
He's just a super sweet guy. But I've seen him perform, I think 3 or 4 times, and I'm getting ready to go here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, well, genuinely one of the nicest guys in the world.
100%. Yeah.
And he has Tourette's.
Yeah.
And you would not know it. First time I met him was outside the show, and his Tourette's was acting up, and I had no clue.
Yeah.
And getting to know him personally and his kindness and his love of people, and then seeing how Tourette's works is fascinating to me. So.
Well, and that's kind of segues into what you're talking about. Jason Michaels, I think the reason that he's so successful is he takes who he is as a person and puts it into his show. And like building that personality around a show where it really does involve you makes the audience not only more comfortable with the show, because then they feel like they're getting magic from one of their friends because you're bringing that personality together, but it makes the show a lot more heartfelt. Even if it is funny moments or sad moments, whatever it is, like people are emotionally invested now because you're pouring something of you into that show, as opposed to a lot of what you see out there is just garbage. I mean, it's just people going up there, pick a card, any card, great. You picked a Queen of Hearts, it's on the bottom of my shoe, and it's like, yeah, that's awesome. And if this was Gatlinburg, then congratulations, you entertained the 30 people coming through that evening. But I think building your personal show is a super unique way to do it, because I love that. I definitely went from appreciating smaller magic, then wanting to go. I remember, when you're in your teens, everything was big magic. It was so cool. But I've really fallen in love with the personal intermediate magic now, where it's the sleight of hand, the small card tricks, or the unique stories behind a trick. Because for me, like that makes that trick more interesting. Because if you've seen a trick 100 times, if you can put a personal spin on it, now that trick's your own.
And see, I see it that way, but also as another magician, a lot of times we don't know how they do a trick. We know the basis of behind it. So I've watched Jason So as I help on a show here in Nashville. And I've seen this show, 15, 18 times in the last 4 months. And there's still tricks I know what he's doing. I can never catch him doing it.
Yeah.
He's that good.
Yeah.
And that's something I've never been able to master. Close-up, I've never been able to master. Cards,
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I had to learn a couple of card tricks at the Magic Camp in Hammond, Indiana. So I learned two card tricks, the 4 Ace trick that I do, and the Find a Card trick. And just recently, I learned a new trick. Somebody gave me a card trick and said, do something with it. And it was a card trick with symbols, and I turned it into playing cards. And I just actually did it for some folks last week for the first time, and it turned out. So it's just a different genre. But I like the performance. I like the stage. And when I do my new show, it's going to be just segments of my life telling stories, and then showing tricks. And I'll do some silly tricks, and I'll do, the puff trick is the one that.
Hey, puff is one of my favorite tricks. All right.
Yeah, that's Brandon's, my son-in-law's favorite trick.
We might. Hey, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, we'll post a short video of the puff trick, and we'll put it on the YouTube when this episode comes out. So that way you all can see my dad perform the puff, because it's so silly, but it's so fun, and at the same time, at the end of it, it's got a fun little twist at the very end where you're just like, because you think you've got it nailed down. You're like, oh, okay, it's got to be XYZ, and then at the end you're just like, well, what the frick? Yeah, it's Brandon, my brother-in-law. That's his favorite trick.
That's the one that Doug Henning did on Johnny Carson. He introduced it there.
Oh wow!
And he did it completely different.
Yeah.
Doug Henning did it very mellow,
yeah,
very slow. Where I do it very fast or very talking, and so I try to put my own twist on it, but I have a lot of fun. So that's how I got into magic and clowning, and still to this day.
Okay, now go to, before we hop on to another quick subject to end, go to performing at, what's the guy's name? Why am I blanking out? Johnny Carson. Is it Johnny Carson? No.
Not Johnny Carson.
What's the dude's name?
Jerry Lewis.
Jerry Lewis. Talk about the Jerry Lewis telethon.
Yeah, Jerry Lewis telethon. I was performing, and somebody said, would you like to perform on the Jerry Lewis telethon?
Which was, for those of you who don't know, also get out your phones and Google. You're going to have to Google quite a bit of this episode, okay? Quite a bit of it's going to have to be Google. But it was massive, right?
It was besides the Super Bowl, it was the largest watched. In fact, it was the largest watched program of the year on any TV, period.
Wow.
It was a muscular dystrophy Jerry Lewis Labor Day telethon, and they would start, I don't even remember, it was 3 days, 24 hours a day for 3 days, and you would raise money for muscular dystrophy.
Yeah.
And it was a pet project of Jerry Lewis's, but at the time, every star that you could ever think of. The biggest
Yeah.
names in music, the biggest names in Hollywood, the biggest names in blockbuster movies did a stunt on it. They were there.
Yeah.
And at the time, not everybody had 4 TVs in their house. You had one.
Yeah.
Maybe
Kids, we're
2.
watching TV.
Right.
Not go to your room and watch your TVs.
Or watch it on your phone.
Yeah,
kids.
facts, yeah.
And so it was a big deal. And so they said, you're going to get to do it. We don't know when, but sometime this period, we'll let you know. And they came down, and I was performing in Gary, Indiana. They had 2 different spots in Gary, Indiana. One had to do with Michael Jackson. I don't remember at the time if he was there. He may have been at his home because he was born and raised in Gary.
I was just singing and dancing. I was in the area.
It may have been the Jackson 5 back then. I don't even know.
Yeah.
They were doing 2 shots, and I was at the one armory. It was at a armory, for the whatever they are, National Guards. So they were doing an armory, and they invited families and friends in, and so I had an audience. Who knows? Remind me to tell you the Cub Scout story. It's a great story.
Okay.
So I was getting ready to perform, and they had no idea in this hour when I would go on. And thing is I had a great trick. I wanted this trick to be the one that would make it on TV. And so I kept kind of waiting, and I got a thing pointing at me, giving me like a 10-second thing. So I ended one trick and jumped into my next trick and did a live trick. It was 3.5 minutes live. So the entire nation was probably, at the time, millions got to watch. And nowadays, millions of people watch it. You become...
Yeah, you go viral.
Instant celebrity, viral,
100%.
because it becomes 10 million views and all of it.
When I got my first million views on TikTok, my account went...
dunk thing.
My account went from literally 2,000 followers to 10,000 followers that day.
Yeah.
And I didn't post another video for weeks.
Yeah.
That's how insane it is nowadays.
So I got to do it live on a 3-minute segment, 3.5-minute segment. So it got the whole trick. And once that trick ended, they cut away. So, but you didn't get it. They just said, hey, we're going to live into Gary, Indiana. And then I was already in my show, so they didn't get to introduce you or nothing.
Yeah, you just go.
Did my thing and out.
That's pretty awesome. All right, talk about the Cub Scout, and then we're going to end on, I have a couple fun magic questions I kind of want to bounce off you. So tell me the Cub Scout.
I was doing a jamboree for the Cub Scouts. And jamborees, thousands of kids back then.
Yeah.
And I had...
this was before, like, the Scoutmaster Kevins were messing around with the kids.
I don't know what was going on behind the scenes. But I got paid big money. I mean, back then, hundreds of dollars to do a show for the Cub Scouts. They were a super nice organization. I had done a lot of the local stuff for them. Yeah. And
simpler times back then, man. Just so much simpler.
So I'm doing it, and the kids were rowdy. They were just being crazy. And I had a dove. His name was Harry. I had 2 doves. One was named... I had about 14 doves in the show, but I had 2 doves that I had gotten early on. Harry was named after Harry Houdini, and he was a gray and brown dove. And then I had Bess, his wife, because Bess was Harry Houdini's wife's name. She was a white dove. Harry and Bess were a couple.
An interracial dove couple.
There you go. I was ahead of the day, man.
I was about to say.
And then the rest of the doves were all just plain white guys. So the rest of them all stayed together. Harry and Bess stayed in a cage in my room. And so Harry...
I'm sorry, go back. So all the doves stayed in one room, and then...
All the doves stayed in, like, the garage, and they had a big cage.
And then you had your 2 personal doves in your bedroom.
But Harry was the first one I got.
Okay.
And I did a certain trick with him with a certain music, and he would get excited. I could play that music, and he would perk up, because he knew that was his time to perform. Because he had performed the trick hundreds of times, and to the same music.
I love dove magic, by the way.
And so he would sleep, he would come, he would not fly away.
Yeah.
And so I produced him out of this trick, and then I banished him. And that's, but he was good through it all. He didn't break nothing. In fact, at one point, he developed a brain tumor. And
this show just got depressing real quick.
I actually paid to have Harry taken to a vet and have brain surgery. Yes.
You cared for... Guys, if my dog had a brain tumor and I said, Dad, I need brain surgery, he'd be like, I guess you need a new dog.
Yeah.
That's exactly how that conversation would go down.
I'd be loading the 380 as you told me. So.
Yeah, you'd be, hey, good thing we've got a lot of property. You'll take Charlie to the back of the field.
But yes, I paid to have him have a brain surgery, and he survived. He lived another 3 years past that.
Wow.
But I mean, the vet told me how they did it. They put him in a shoebox with a little gas till he passed out. He'd be groggy for a few days, and had a little dab of something like, I don't know, alcohol. Had a dab on his little wound on the side of his head. Yeah. So that's why I don't make fun of any of your quirks. I got ones that'll beat yours any day. So Harry, you didn't screw with Harry.
Yeah.
That was my dove.
Yeah.
I mean, he had brain surgery. So I'm doing this jamboree. And in this one particular thing, I produce Harry. Harry flutters and flies in a circle and lands.
Yeah.
That's what he does. He was trained to do that. He had done it 100 times or more. He flops. He appears, and he starts to fly. And some kid from the front row jumps up and punches him midair. This is a Cub Scout. Got his little sash on and all that. Punches Harry midair. I lose my crap. So Harry gets punched literally, he's probably 6 feet in the air, or 4 feet in the air. He gets punched to probably 10 feet in the air, and it panics him.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what to do. He flies to the roof, and I'm in a gym that has a pool, and the pool has a little hard floor that goes over it.
Yeah.
And I'm performing on that hard floor, so there's a pool underneath us.
Yeah.
But because of that, there's rafters or whatever, 20, 30 feet up in the air.
Yeah.
So he flies to the top rafter, and he's there. He ain't coming down.
Yeah. I mean, why would you? You got punched in the face. Have you imagine coming out of a magic trick going ta-da, and then someone punching you in the face?
So I, again, undiplomatically, lose my crap.
Okay,
now,
we're talking, like, you didn't swear at the kid, did you?
No. That was my pre-swear days. That was when I would go to heck,
Oh, that's right.
If I swore.
And then you had me as a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the minute you came out, I started swearing. Anyways, so I finished the trick, and I looked at the headmaster, I said, we're done. And he looked at me, and I'm like 15 minutes into what's supposed to be like a 40-minute show.
Yeah.
And he said, what? I said, we're done. Get him out of here. And the guy looked at me. And
wait, are you in clown makeup at this point?
No, I'm in a tuxedo.
Okay, I was curious.
Oh, man, no.
It would have been a lot funnier if you were in a clown costume, because you have a painted-on smile and you're calling a kid, whatever you're calling him in the front row. Like, that would have been awesome.
So we didn't know what to do. So it took us a long time. And what we ended up doing is I ended up getting, those hooks you hook people with that are drowning?
Yeah.
Those poles they keep extending out.
Yeah,
They got that blue hook. So after everybody got down, we turned down some of the lights, and I played Harry's music. Shut up. And I got that thing. I extended
what was the music? Don't you remember you told me you love me, baby?
No. I think
it's raining doves.
No, I think it was.
Hallelujah.
I actually have the 45s I used to use. So if you really want to play them sometime, you can. So I
bird's the word.
No, I think it's whoa,
it's magic. Oh, that's a good one. Okay, that's fitting.
I think it was the one I played him with. So anyways, I took this thing and extended it as far as I could and just held it up to him until he perched on it.
Oh.
And I just very slowly collapsed it down until he could come.
Yeah.
And I put him away. But that probably took me 15 minutes to get him down.
Yeah.
And calm him down. And he wasn't hurt, but that's I hope that Cub Scout lost a patch or something. unless there's a patch for punching birds.
I was about to say.
And he got his bird punching patch. He was the first one going, dang, I get my patch today, Dad. So anyway.
All right. That's good stories. That's a lot of this information I didn't know, and I've lived in the same house as you for forever. So that's pretty cool. All right. I want to talk about a few.
I also have another one.
What's your other one?
I have one where we did this trick with a bowl full of goldfish. And Leonard was doing it with me.
Okay.
And it's you put a bowl of goldfish on one side and there's an empty bowl on the other side of the stage, probably 10 feet away. And we're doing this again in probably front of 400 people. And my brother did not necessarily practice or listen to me a lot.
Who, Uncle Len?
And
no.
The person backstage setting stuff up was Ruth. So Ruth and Leonard would fight like 2-year-olds backstage at times. And she would yell at him to do stuff, and he wouldn't do it. And those are my memories. Everybody's going to tell you different. But anyways, I was the guy out front making this all happen. So we did this trick, and it was Howie the fish. So we have this big glass bowl, and Howie the fish is a big goldfish, and he's in this one fish tank, and we put a silk over it and pull the silk out the other side of the stage 20 feet away, and Howie's floating there. And then we make Howie float back. He loaded the trick wrong, and he drowned the fish.
First off, how do you drown a fish?
You can. So he drowned the fish. So we're doing this shtick, and I have jokes that work through it all, and we're at this American Legion. I believe
How did he get there? Get it because of Howie.
That's how we did it.
Yeah.
How he flies, I don't know, but how he flies. That was the fish's name, and that was the gag. We got this flying fish. How does he fly? I don't know. And we kept Howie back and forth. You know, the old Three Stooges kind of a thing. So how he flies, I don't know. So I went, Howie flies, ta-da! And we look, and he's floating sideways. And everybody's kind of looking. And Howie doesn't look very good. So I didn't know what to do. Howie's dead. The other Howie is gone. He's disappeared. So we did have one. Oh, I've got a couple more too. But yeah, you can save them.
Yeah, I was about to say we're gonna. I mean, listen, we're gonna have to have a second podcast.
By the time I choked a kid.
Wait, I'm sorry. Why? First off, why would you go to dead fish when you're like, I almost murdered a child?
So that's why you carry insurance. They were very nice people in Crown Point. I can drive to their house. I don't remember the name, but they were very nice when I almost choked their child during his birthday show.
Oh, what did he do?
Oh, anyways, do you want to hear that story too?
I mean, why not? At this point, you can't bring it up.
Okay,
that's like when a girlfriend's and you're like, what's going on? And she says nothing.
Oh, that's a lie.
And you know that there's something. So, like, you can't tell me a story and then be like, never mind. Just tell me. Tell me about almost murder.
I saw somebody do a magic trick where they take two ropes, wrap it on somebody's middle, their stomach, and they pull it.
Oh, you've done this a couple times. And then the ropes go through the kid.
So, I thought it'd be more fun to do it around their neck. So I do 2 ropes to the neck. So we talk, and I tie the ropes around. I have a volunteer, and we tie the ropes right in his neck, and they truly are tied around his neck. But I bring out a handkerchief. I say, I don't want to burn your neck, and I bring out a white handkerchief that's got blood drops all over it. I said, oh, that's from the last show. Don't worry. And I throw it away and get a new white one out and put it around it. I panic like, there's not supposed to be blood all over it. And when you're doing this and you got ropes around a 8 or 10-year-old kid, it works relatively well.
Yeah.
It actually works better on drunk people, too. When you pull it out. And I've done it on drunk people. So I roped it, but I gimmicked the trick wrong.
Oh, there you go.
I say I did because as a magician, I double check all the gimmicks. I didn't actually gimmick it. Somebody else did. But I took responsibility.
Yeah, but before, if someone else is involved, it's your job to triple check it so that way, at the end of that, trick, it either A, works properly, or B, you don't murder somebody.
Right. So I double check everything, and so I didn't. It was my bad, and I'm sorry to use the word gimmick because I don't actually put ropes through somebody's neck. It's a trick.
Yeah.
Did I just spoil it for you?
I mean, there will be somebody going, I thought it was real magic.
Yeah.
There will be.
Well, that only happens after I worship Satan.
Yeah, I was just about to say, after you're levitating in the back and murdering goats, then
No, I killed doves. Anyways,
right.
So I gimmicked it wrong. So the payoff is we pull the rope really tight, and it's 20 feet of rope, and we turn away from the victim as we're doing it.
Yeah.
And it comes
I don't like
through.
how you said the word victim, by the way.
It comes
volunteer. Like this is.
Oh, I call them. That's the whole thing. I use the word victim. Just it's all.
I just wanted to clarify. So whenever this court case inevitably comes out because of this podcast, I heard volunteer.
Yeah. Well, we call him a victim when we do that. Just all fun and games. So
until you almost murder him. Yeah.
I'm pulling on my rope, and I'm pulling harder. I'm not pulling as hard as my assistant is. And all of a sudden I realize I'm being pulled away from the opposite direction.
Yeah.
So I turn and look, and the other person's looking the other way, pulling as hard as they can. And there's this little 12-year-old, 10-year-old kid in the middle going, as his head slowly drifts to the side that's being pulled. And did leave a rope burn. And he was the birthday boy.
There you go.
So his parents paid me a lot of money for that birthday. And actually, I didn't take the check. I gave them back. They were super nice about it. I gave them a T-shirt, which I always gave my kids. A just plain magic T-shirt. I gave him one, but he was super nice about it. So yeah. I mean, you perform enough and do enough, and I don't know how many times I've performed over the years. And funny thing about it is, since I haven't performed for 5 or 6 years, I even have been part of the Nashville Magic Club for 5 years, and nobody in the club has ever seen me perform yet. They don't even know I do.
Yeah.
They don't even know
They just
my
think you're
background.
just that weird guy that comes in the back of the room and says he does magic but never does anything. They're like, oh, yeah, that's Larry. Ignore him. He says he does magic. And they're blinking at each other like.
But I'm actually an officer in the club this year, so I'm going to have to do something. So.
Well, I mean, I know a lot of those guys, and I think they would lose it if you performed your puff puff trick. All right, so I got a couple magic trick questions that I kind of want to bounce off you real quick. Okay. Greatest magician of all time. I know this is probably subjective. This is like who's the greatest basketball player of all time. I say
What
LeBron.
era?
You say Jordan. You know.
What era?
All right, so we're going.
Ever?
Ever. If you had one name and you said you had to watch this guy forever, for the rest of your life, every single day, who are you watching and why?
Thurston or Blackstone Sr. Probably Blackstone Sr. Blackstone Sr. created a lot of things that his son did, and I loved his son's stuff.
Yeah.
The floating light bulb was created by Blackstone Sr. back in the
I didn't know
day.
that. Yeah.
Back in the day when you didn't have all the electronics. That's some of the crap I don't like about today. Some of it's so electronic because people. My tricks are all old school.
Yeah.
And I love that about them. But anyways,
because magic used to have such a purity to it,
Yeah.
and now everybody's like, "Pick this card. It's on an iPad," and it's just like, "Screw you, Dave."
a lot
like,
of people do that with their phones, and
there's some phone and some of them are really cool, and some of them are clever, but there's very few clever tricks anymore because everybody's just mass producing garbage, and anybody with a cell phone or a laptop or an iPad can now be a magician. That drives me up a wall. It used to be an artistry.
So I'd have to, and I'd never seen Blackstone Sr. obviously. But if he trained his son, I wouldn't. Most people would probably say Houdini, but Houdini was.
Well, see, here's the thing with Houdini is Houdini wasn't.
He was a showman.
He was a showman, and like it would be amazing to see him escape, or because that's usually what he did. But he was not what I would consider a traditional magician that would get up and do an hour show, right?
He absolutely was.
Was he really?
But he was known for his escapes. He was absolutely a magician
Interesting.
who would make doves appear and all that other stuff.
I wonder why do you think everybody focuses on the escapes then? Because they were so dangerous?
When you go to New York City and you have a crane lift you up 10 stories and you're hanging upside down, escaping from a straitjacket, that's what they remember. They don't remember the dove you just produced. Or when you get put in a safe and thrown in the river and you escape.
Oh, by the way, can we debunk that? He didn't die because of that, right? Didn't he get pneumonia after performing that trick?
None of which.
Because it's all the allure around how Houdini died
has all to do with the Houdini water torture cell, and that has nothing to do with his death. Houdini died basically of a burst appendix. Days after he was actually, they think he may have hurt it. He used to do this thing. He had such strong ab muscles. He used to let people punch him.
And
And there was a period in time when I have a keg. I don't have a 6-pack, but there was a time when I used to do high schools, motivational speakings for junior highs and high schools, and I would let anybody come up and punch me 3 times. Yeah. And I used to do that all the times, and there's a technique to it, and if you're strong enough core, it doesn't bother you. I had the toughest guy, pick the running back, and have him come up and hit me, and it's one of those things. Anyways, somebody hit him when he wasn't prepared, and they think he already had an inflamed appendix.
And it burst.
And then when he went out and performed that night, and he actually performed for a couple more days and just continued to spread the poison. And we were talking about many years ago when the technology wasn't there. By the way, I've been to a Houdini seance, which is another whole story. An actual seance. It was the scariest thing I've ever been to.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's not bring Satan onto my podcast.
Probably Blackstone Sr., nowadays, I don't know.
All right, so we're gonna get to nowadays. All right, so Blackstone Sr. is probably be who you consider greatest of all time, even though you saw Blackstone Jr., but he did a lot of his dad's tricks. Okay, so I get that. Today, top 3 magicians performing that you would go pay and watch.
Well, we are when we go to Vegas.
Facts.
We're going to go see Copperfield, obviously, just because
I feel like you just have to. I mean, he is Elton John, right? He's just somebody that it's a name. Even if they're not good, you're going to go.
Yeah, and he's good. His show is phenomenal. I've not seen his Vegas show. I saw his touring show a couple times. Yeah. Which was good. I mean, the thing I didn't like about his one touring show is they showed videos of his TV for 20 minutes.
Yeah,
I'm kind of going, wait, I saw that on TV. Why am I paying, back then $30 or $40 a seat, which is 200 now. So
Copperfield's one.
There's a couple of other new guys that are in Vegas, and I can't think. One of them's an old time guy, and I can't think of his name. He's a comedy magician, performs in that plaid all the time.
He was on Penn and Teller not too long ago. Oh my goodness, I know exactly. What you're talking about.
I just got a message because I messaged him an IM through because we're friends on Facebook or something. This person just wrote me back and said, "Hey, he's not responding to this anymore. He's responding through this page." I can't think of his name. Anyways.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, though.
Yeah. He's every time I've seen him, I've never seen him perform live, but I've seen him on show. He's hilarious. He's a comedy magician, but he's a talented magician.
And see, that's the thing is, there was a famous comedian, Patton Oswalt, talked about this. Comedy magicians used to be disrespected back in the day. It was basically like, you're a crappy comedian, learn a couple magic tricks, and you'd have a great show. Like, that was his. I mean, it's a very interesting. And he's like, if you're a really good magician, but learn a couple jokes.
Piff.
You'd like to see Piff?
No, a crappy comedian who learns some magic tricks.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Piff, 100%.
He made his name by dressing like a dragon and going on America's Got Talent. He's got his own show that sells out regularly. Yeah. I've heard it's a good show. I've seen him perform enough where I'm kind of going, okay, I don't
He's
get
okay.
it. You the casual sloppiness, I don't get.
Yeah.
It just, I'll go to any magic show. I've gone to
any magic show.
I have drug you to horrible shows many times.
Listen, I can't say mainly details of those shows because a lot of these people, and so I would never do that to you in the Brotherhood of Magic.
But we were at a show one time when somebody stripped down to basically their underwear.
Yeah.
So
I have seen that,
and that was part of the show. So it's been...
Oh, by the way, super casual about it, too. Just like getting naked on stage and just like talking to me like, anyway, how's your day? And I'm like, where's your pants, man? I don't care about my ace. Yeah. Like, where's your pants?
Yeah.
All right, so number 1, Copperfield.
Yeah, we'll see him.
Number 2, I can't think of the guy's name.
That's going to make me so mad.
It's the second this podcast wraps up, we're going to remember it. And then number 3, who you seeing? I know a lot of people want to say Penn and Teller, but I don't know that I'd like to. Well, I mean, I would like to see them.
I had that discussion at the Magic Club actually a week or so ago, and that was the discussion, and they said you've got to see him just to see him.
Yeah, kind of like
so. Probably because I've never seen him. That's probably who we're gonna. I promise to take you and Justin to Vegas just for a 3-day magic jaunt.
Yeah.
And I have a couple friends out there. In fact, I have a friend that used to be performing here that just moved there to perform on stage with some of the top. And I'll call them and ask them, but probably Penn and Teller, Copperfield, and the guy in plaid.
I can't think of that guy's name. I mean, I think I would go Penn and Teller for sure, just because I've never seen him. Shin Lim, I think Shin Lim. I think Shin Lim's a genius.
Oh, that's the other guy. Who's the other guy that won America's Got Talent? Got his own thing. His show is phenomenal.
I think he's one of the best magicians I've ever seen.
And I've heard people that know him, and I
sweet guy. Looks like a super sweet guy on TV.
Yeah. Well, that's who I'd go see.
I would see him in a heartbeat.
Yeah. I'd go see him over Penn and Teller, to be honest with you.
He is. Well, he won America's Got Talent. I can't think of his name. Super sweet guy, but I think he's amazing.
Yeah, he's super fun, and I've heard his shows are fun. I talked to, in fact, that guy that we saw. Boy, I should have made notes before all this.
Yeah,
the guy that we saw in Gatlinburg.
Yeah, I can't think of his name either.
At the Space Needle. Hey, if you're ever going to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and the Space Needle, there's a magic show there, and I can't think of his name either. I'm sorry, but I'm promoting your show too. It's a great little show. Back of the theater in the back of the arcade. It's worth looking up and finding. It's at the bottom of the Space
it's a
Needle.
lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
Oh.
That was Houdini calling in from the past. So, anyways, his show. He is friends with that guy, and I can't think of his name. And he said he's to this day, even after becoming a multimillionaire and getting his show in Vegas, is still fun, common, nice person, like you said earlier. A nice person.
Yeah, he's also insanely talented.
Yeah. But we saw The Illusionists 2 years ago, and that was an amazing show.
Yeah. The only part I don't like, and this is just a personal preference, some people really love that stuff. I just can't stand the escapes, because I think a lot of them are just too cheesy. Do. I'm like, am I watching an episode of 24, or are you escaping the jaws of death in
Here's the whole thing, and that what you don't like about it is the same thing I don't like about David Copperfield. Not that I have any reason to criticize a billionaire.
Facts.
Okay. you know that Statue of Liberty never went anywhere.
Yeah.
That guy who's only performed this trick twice,
Yeah.
and this chainsaw is going to cut his leg off while the axe puts his eye out.
Yeah.
Just did that an hour and a half ago.
Yeah.
You know he's not going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And the once in 50,000 times that something does go wrong,
It's usually an equipment malfunction.
it's equipment malfunction.
Yeah.
I'm not into that big death stuff.
Yeah.
To me,
But
it just doesn't...
the Sherlock Holmes guy was on that show.
Oh, he was good.
Why we should have written names down because
Yeah.
we talked about it, and then the second you record, I know if you've never been behind a mic, you just go blank. But that guy was incredible. But I would definitely say Shin Lim is a big one for me because
the most amazing card manipulator I've ever seen.
go to, and I'm dead serious, Google Shin Lim Penn and Teller and watch episodes 1 and 2 when he went on Penn and Teller. It's just genius.
It's music.
You
It's
can't
music.
you can't
It's
put
theater.
it into words. It's gorgeous. It's amazing. It's mind blowing. It's breathtaking. It's like I've never felt emotions while watching someone do cards. It's just remarkable. And so Shin Lim would be a big one. I'd like to see Penn and Teller. And then honestly, probably that guy from America's Got Talent that we were talking about earlier because
My friend in the plaid. I can't think of his name.
I can't think of his name either. All right, last question. Then we'll let the people go. I'm sure they're probably like, "Holy hell, how much magic can you talk about?" But listen, I love magic, so I could sit there and talk about this all day.
If this
But
thing gets more than 2 views, it'll be a miracle. So here you go.
wow, thanks for having faith in me, Dad. Last question: top 3 magic movies of all time. I know what your number 1 is.
What?
Burt Wonderstone.
Absolutely my favorite.
Burt Wonderstone is one of the best movies ever.
Yeah.
And Steve Carell's a genius.
It is absolutely phenomenal. It's funny. It's tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
And I actually got a friend of mine. I talked to somebody, and I got one of the press release kits when they released it in Vegas. I have one. I own one downstairs.
Really?
Yeah. It's a
All right,
press
so
release
I
kit.
guess I would say the top 3 magician or like clown movies or TV scenes, because I know what one of your other ones is going to be. So number 1, Burt Wonderstone.
Yeah.
Number 2, Modern Family, The Clown Funeral.
Yeah, but that's completely different. Clown genre and circus genre can be different than magic genre.
Okay, so all right, so then let's just stick with magic.
Gotcha.
Okay, so number 1, Burt Wonderstone. What's your number 2 favorite magic movie?
What do you think?
Probably either Now You See Me.
There you go. I know I keep bumping stuff and you're having a cow.
Yeah, stop
Get over
bumping
it.
the
I
microphone.
talk with my hands. I'm a magician.
All right,
Now You See Me.
Now You See Me, and then I'd say number 3, maybe The Prestige. Prestige is an incredible movie. Now, I mean, it's loosely based around magic, just like Now You See Me. It's loosely based around, but I would consider those magic movies.
Now You See Me is the thing about Now You See Me is it has the concept of magic. It's done mostly with
CGI
and stuff. It's not really done with real magic.
Now, fun fact is that girl almost did drown in the beginning. That's pretty wild.
She's
That
dumped
beginning
in with
scene
the-
when she
Jumped
almost
in with
drowned.
the fake
Yeah.
of piranhas. She did her gimmick did get caught on the bottom, and she could not get out, and that's why she wouldn't make the second one.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
That's folklore that is actually, from what I've been told, is true. It's probably the original, the original with Tony Curtis, the original story of Harry Houdini's life. Tony Curtis did it, and it was a phenomenal black and white, very well done. I hate the modern versions of it. You can't. Why they remake everything is beyond me.
Because Hollywood has no ideas, and this is something that I've wanted to talk about. No one has any more original thoughts. No one has any more original ideas. No one has a vision for what movies should look like.
Let's make Hellboy 3, but this time,
start with a new actor, and it's still the same crappy film.
Yeah,
but
even Spider-Man. Let's have 15 different styles. Okay, this is yours.
First off.
Okay, so they figure out how to make it all into one.
It's the multiverse.
But that wasn't their plan when they started.
No, it was. I mean, Sony had no plans when everything started. The Marvel Cinematic...
Batmans. They keep remaking Batman.
First off, Pattinson's going to be an incredible Batman. Christian Bale's Batman's had the best villains. I don't know that necessarily he was the best Batman.
That. But keep going with the series then. Don't restart back.
Well, this is... Listen, I'm doing...
Mom and Dad getting killed in an alley.
Listen. We're getting a young version of Batman. Okay. We're not going to get the traditional from 12 to grown-up Batman. We're not getting any of that stuff anymore.
Anyways.
But I'm going to do a Marvel and a DC show in a couple podcasts coming up. So we'll get to that later. But
So
Any closing?
Tony Curtis in the original Houdini
Okay,
movie.
so those are your top three. I mean, I definitely say Burt Wonderstone for me.
I watched that just the other night and still
I
laughed
did
through
too.
it again.
It's so good.
Just brilliantly done.
Then I would say The Prestige for me with Hugh Jackman. Brilliant movie. It's just so good.
Well, Prestige or Now You See Me 1. Those would be
And then
tied.
I'd say Now You See Me, the first one,
Yeah.
would probably be my top three. But there it is. Listen, if you wanted an episode based on magic, this is it. Dad, thank you for coming.
You didn't get into my detectives. You didn't get into my PhD.
We're
in
gonna have to
theology.
get. We're
You
gonna
didn't
have to
into
get
any of that.
Listen, we're already an hour and 20 minutes into this, right? I don't want to keep the
I
people
could talk
waiting.
magic for another hour.
Yeah,
and
if
20.
I really could too. If I was Joe Rogan and I knew I had people that could withstand my voice for more than 45 minutes, you know, I appreciate all one of y'all that's listening to this right now. But no, I appreciate you coming on. It's been a lot of fun. We're going to put, a bunch of stuff out there. We're going to have a trick that we'll put up on YouTube. I'll put links and tags to everybody that we really talked about on the show as well. So make sure you're following That's Life Podcast at That's Life with Jacob on Instagram. I'll tag my father and all that fun stuff. And listen, Dad, any last words before I sign off here?
Yeah, if you want me to come and choke somebody with a trick at your house, just call me.
He can do it on the allure of magic. So when the detectives come,
Yeah.
there's no question to be answered. Listen, everybody. Thank you, Dad, for the return episode. This has been a lot of fun. Everybody else, have a magical day.
That's life. That's life. That's what all the people say. You're right.